how do you forgive yourself for past mistakes? I believe this topic of conversation, this topic in general, should be mandatory in schools, within family conversations and within society. It should be a concept that is absolutely hands down mandatory for everybody to explore and understand at the deepest levels. My first point that I want to bring up in this conversation is that every single human being on the planet has had a different upbringing. Some people have had the perfect, pristine upbringing, love, compassion, abundance, freedom, nurturing parents. Some people have had the polar opposite, abuse on the most heinous of levels, no parents at all, or parents that didn't love them and didn't care about them and didn't consider them. So everybody on the planet has a different experience on this spectrum. Maybe it goes beyond either way. I don't know. Most people on the planet everybody on the planet has had an experience between this spectrum. So when it comes to human behaviour, your behaviour, my behaviour, society's behaviour, cultural behaviour, often it is influenced by what we experience and what we're exposed to when we're children. Religion, families, drugs, alcohol, abuse, love, compassion, goodness, decency, creativity, the whole spectrum, the whole array, infinite. If you find yourself in a position in your life where you have hurt other people, you've done wrong to other people, you've behaved in a way that has indirectly or directly caused suffering to other people, and you don't feel like you can forgive yourself, and you're asking yourself and looking in the mirror and you're asking how. In this video I want to explore with you some of the ways or how you can forgive yourself. And the reason why I explored and I talked about our childhood upbringing is because that's the place to start. Now, if you've hurt people and you know you've hurt people and you're seeking self-forgiveness, look to your childhood. Because if you were not treated in the most loving, kind, compassionate way, if religion installed programs and dogma within you, if your family members didn't particularly love or care about you, or you felt neglected or abandoned, or you didn't have a love presented to you, then the first thing to do, here's number one, the first thing to do is be gentle with yourself. We don't know what we don't know, and when we know that we don't know, we have an opportunity to change. We don't know what we don't know, and when we know that we don't know, that's when we have an opportunity to change. That's when we have an opportunity to be different. So therefore, once we reach that point of self-awareness where we recognise, the way I'm behaving, the way I speak, the way I treat other people isn't very good, right? It's not very pleasant. When I get treated that way, I don't like it. When I was treated that way when I was a kid, I didn't like it, and now I'm doing it to other people. I'm not a good person. Yeah? That's the position that a lot of people can find themselves in. I'm not a good person. Or you've done certain things and you look to yourself in the mirror and you say, I'm not a good person. The first thing to recognise is that you didn't know what you didn't know. Or, because you might have known what you were doing, but you might not have been given the pristine origins for an upbringing. Now that's 99.8% of the entire population of the planet. Okay, that's where we start. Okay, and that's the most logical place to start. That is where we start. Okay, so step one, recognising your childhood. Were you given all of the information, all the love, all the compassion? Were you shown what you were needed to shown to be a good and decent human being? If the answer is no, give yourself a bit of a break. Okay, show yourself a little bit of love, show yourself a little bit of compassion, and say to yourself, okay, when I was a kid, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was angry. I was angry at religion, I was angry at my parents, I was angry at the world, I was angry at my friends, I was angry at school, whatever it is, right? I was angry. And that anger caused me to hurt other people, okay? It takes a very special individual to have gone throughout life and never caused suffering to another person, okay? Usually it becomes an impossibility because of even the indirect suffering. You know, even if you are a saint in the world and you've got 4 people who love you and want to be with you, well, you're going to hurt one of them because you can't be with all 4. And if you try, you quickly realise how impossible that is. So we live in a world where suffering, as many people say, is inevitable. But it's how we choose to observe it. Okay, so that's not one of my points. The first point is observing your childhood, giving yourself a bit of a break. But that isn't a key point there that I just mentioned. Number two, okay, is being an engineer of your mind, your emotions, your experiences, your behaviours, your thoughts, your past. Become an engineer of your entire human self. Okay, now what do I mean by that? An engineer is a problem solver. They ask questions, they experiment, they explore, they refine, define. They go through a whole process to figure out the way to do something, how to do it better, or how to fix something. Now, I'm not saying you're broken and need fixing. Some people resonate with that term. But what I am saying is that if you become the engineer of your life, what you start to do is you start to ask the right questions. You start to explore possibilities and potentials. Like, for example, I'm an alcoholic and I've hurt my family. Or I've hurt people in general. Or I'm using women. Or I'm using men. Or I'm selfish and I don't care about anybody else. And X, Y, Z. Or I'm rude to people. Whatever it is that you've done that you're struggling to forgive yourself for, become the engineer. Ask yourself why you behave that way. Why are you behaving that way? Why you behaved that way? And why you might be behaving that way. Okay? It could stem from childhood, from being bullied in school, from being fed up with the system and life in general. You know, a lot of people are struggling with that at the minute. You know, a lot of people are looking at the world and they're losing hope. Hope in people, hope in systems, hope in government, hope in their path. They're losing hope. Okay? So, becoming the engineer of your life is about asking the right questions, experimenting, exploring. Okay? If you look and you say to yourself, nobody loves me, nobody wants me, and I hurt people and I use people, ask yourself, or go out into the world. So first of all, ask yourself where it might be stemming from. Secondly, start exploring behaving in a different way. Right? If you're using people, give to them unconditionally. Right? Go out and find a place where you might be able to volunteer and help for free. Right? There are ways to forgive yourself, which can actually be through either questioning or through physical action. Right? It almost, I mean, this isn't how I'd exactly put it, but it could be that you're making up for what you've done. Right? You're actually physically changing yourself to behave in a different way. Now, we can't take back what we've done in our lives, but we can recognise our mistakes and our failures. And you know what? If you recognise the world, most people who will hold themselves accountable, put their hands up, hold themselves accountable for their behaviour and who they are, usually earn the utmost respect and admiration from the people around them. Why? Because most people are also behaving in that way, whether publicly or behind the scenes. And so the fact that you're a representation and an example of change, of recognition, of being apologetic and humble and saying that, you know, I was a shit person, I was a bad person, I'm going to seek to walk a path of redemption. Okay? For you to do that, I guarantee you, will earn the utmost respect from many people. So step one, explore your past, the reason. Number two, become an engineer of your life. Okay, sorry, step one is recognizing, you know, childhood and early years. Step two is becoming an engineer of your life. And step three is, all linked into step two, is going out there and exploring. Hold your hands up. Recognize that you did wrong. And oftentimes, if other people can forgive you, you should be able to forgive yourself. Ooh, should. That's not the most pleasant of words, because you might say, well, James, I can't, and you're telling me I should, and that's not fair. I understand that. I understand that. But it's still just recognizing that if it's possible for another human being to forgive you, by the nature of unity and oneness and true consciousness, it is inherently possible for you to forgive yourself. And usually that stems from recognizing that your life probably hasn't been the perfect way, that you've probably behaved in a certain way due to unconscious external stimulus, right? Being abused as a child, bullied, etc., etc. Usually people behave in a certain way because of unconscious external experiences. But when we then start to recognize what is happening and we're like, oh my goodness, I'm being a terrible person, this isn't the way I should be, then you change. Forgive yourself. The law of forgiveness is one of the most powerful laws in our universe. Okay, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know. Okay, forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know. And remember that many of the forces of addiction in our world are very strong. Okay, they're very strong, and they can become coping mechanisms. They can become things that people lean upon. They can become unconscious habits, and they can be very strong. So learn to forgive yourself, okay? Because in every given moment, you have an opportunity to be different. In every given moment, you have an opportunity to change and to reconcile with yourself and with other people. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and the path to self-forgiveness can be challenging. Of course, I offer my one-on-one sessions. If you would like to explore those with me, please feel free to drop me a message. Or in any other case, if you have a comment, please leave it down below. Drop a like on the video. And in any other case, guys, I appreciate you very much. Subscribe if you're on YouTube, and give me a follow on my other social media platforms. Take care of yourselves, my friends, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.